Hello and welcome back, everyone. One of the essential skills every medical affairs leader must master is the ability to attract resources. Medical teams have always operated with limited budgets, which is quite ironic and somehow funny, because considering that the industry all evolves around medicine, science, and innovation, logically you would expect that the largest investments go towards the teams driving the scientific progress. But since that's not the reality, medical affairs leaders have had to develop different kind of strength, which is the ability to secure resources from within the organization in order to make things happen. This has never been an easy task. Often, those additional budgets need to be justified to commercial leaders or business leaders who may not be really fully aware or fully understandable of the value or long-term impact of certain medical initiatives. So in this session, as promised, I will share with you how we can use data storytelling to make a stronger case for our medical initiatives and ultimately get your budget requests approved. In the beginning, we will start by writing a very traditional email requesting additional budget from the leader. The kind of message most people usually send. Then we will rewrite the same message, the same request, using the power of data storytelling to make it more persuasive and impactful. Finally, we will analyze the difference between the two approaches and understand why one may get ignored while the other get approved. So let's start with the first email and let's call it the factual email, which is the typical approach. As you see on the screen, the subject line says, request for additional budget for a registry project. Dear, the message will be sent to the leader. I'm writing to request additional budget for our rheumatoid arthritis registry, planned for 2025. The project aims to collect data from multiple sites across the country to assess treatment patterns and long-term outcomes. The estimated additional cost is $50,000 to cover the expansion, data management, and monitoring. Without this budget, we might not be able to include additional sites that were initially identified as strategic. Please let me know if this request can be approved. Best regards, Sarah, Medical Manager, Immunology. So that's the traditional email we write in order to obtain additional budget. Before we go to the storytelling version of the same email message, let's highlight some observations about this factual email. First, the message presents facts without any context. Though the sender mentioned that the initiative to expand the registry is strategic, but actually there was no sense of why it matters to the organization or to the patients. And it was not clear, is it strategic for you or for me or for who? While the message really provides numbers, obviously the way it was written, that no story was included, no context, the $50,000 requested feels like a cost and not an investment, a long-term investment. The message is purely transactional, no sense of urgency or vision. And also, I think the message doesn't connect with the leader's strategic objectives. I didn't get it. It was not clear also if there is alignment with the value or outcomes. In fact, there was no mentioning at all of any expected outcomes. That's important. So this kind of email may be read, may be acknowledged, but I don't think it will be prioritized, and I think it's less likely to be approved without further discussions and more clarity provided. Now, let's use data storytelling and the SPAR approach to rewrite the same email message and see what will happen. Remember, the SPAR is the situation, problem, action, and the result. Let's read the message together after applying this SPAR. It is a little bit longer than the first email. Subject is strengthening our real-world evidence in rheumatology. Request for registry support. Dear leader, and we will start here with the situation. Over the past year, our team has been closely monitoring treatment outcomes in patients with rheumatoid arthritis across our key centers. We now have early indicators showing that patients in real clinical settings achieve 20 to 25% lower remission rate compared to those in pivotal trials. This gap highlights a real-world challenge, the need for deeper insight into patient adherence, treatment switching, and disease progression in our region. Without this understanding, our future strategies may miss critical factors influencing real-world effectiveness. To address this, here now we come to the action. We have designed the rheumatoid arthritis real-world registry in collaboration with leading centers. The registry will allow us to track long-term patient outcomes, identify gaps in care, and generate evidence that can be shared with regulators, payers to support broader access. Currently, the registry is ready to launch, but to expand from 5 to 10 centers, we require an additional $50,000. This expansion will not only enhance data, but also strengthen our publication pipeline and reinforce our leadership in real-world evidence within immunology. The action I'm requesting approval for additional budget to enable the nationwide registry participation. The expected outcome, within 12 months, we anticipate generating regional data that can support access discussions and value dossiers for future reimbursement submissions. Thank you for considering this investment in evidence generation that directly supports our strategic goal, improving patient outcomes through data-driven insights. Warm regards, Sarah, Medical Manager, Immunology. What do you think? A completely different version of the same message and the same request. Let's take a closer look at this comparison between traditional email and the one written using the SPAR framework and data storytelling. In the first version, the tone is purely transactional and formal. It simply states a request like tickling a box. But in the SPAR version, in the SPAR storytelling version, the tone shifts to something strategic and purposeful. It positions the request as part of the bigger picture. The opening in the dry version or the first version just asks for the budget. In contrast, the storytelling version begins with data-driven insights, immediately grabbing the reader's attention. That's storytelling. When it comes to the context, in the first message, actually it provides no context, while the SPAR version frames the gap between clinical trial data and real-world outcomes, making the need feel relevant and urgent. When it comes to relevance also changes dramatically between the two messages. Instead of focusing on the internal request of additional budget, the storytelling version connects the project to broader organizational goals, such as real-world evidence, access, and even leadership. Even the data, how it was used between the two emails is different. In the first email, numbers just represent costs, not investment. But in the storytelling version, they become part of the narrative, showing the impact on patients, not just budgets. Another point, the emotions or the feelings is a big difference. The first message feels cold and procedural, while the SPAR version includes emotional trigger, hinting at the unmet medical need and its effect on patients. Then there is action clarity. Instead of just saying, please approve the budget, the storytelling version says approve to expand the registry for national representation and impact. Once again, more specific, more purposeful. And finally, when it comes to results, the traditional message ends abruptly. The storytelling version, on the other hand, closes by defining tangible outcomes, measurable outcomes, stronger data, better access, credible evidence, and leadership impact. To summarize, the difference is clear. One email asks for money and the other builds a case for change. The first email treats communication as a transaction or as an exchange of information, while the second email treats it as a story, a strategic message with purpose, context, and measurable impact. Ladies and gentlemen, remember that in the pharmaceutical industry, especially when it comes to medical affairs, decision makers are more likely to support initiatives, whether with budget or with other means, when they see clearly a scientific or patient value, a strategic link to the company objectives and goals, a data-backed rationale that shows measurable outcomes. That's the essence of data storytelling. Transforming information into insights and insights into actions, as we mentioned in our last episode. I will leave a link to download the two emails, the traditional one and the storytelling one, for your future references. I will leave it in the description of this episode. Thank you for joining me in this short tutorial, and see you soon.